everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the word Indian and how it was first applied to our people, American Indian people, and not East Indians initially. And this topic is very controversial because a lot of people say Christopher Columbus didn't exist, and others saying that he didn't even say that we were Indios or whatever. And I'm not going to touch too deep into Christopher Columbus because it's just no point. It's no point to me. But I am going to show an image of him, and I'm pretty sure some of y'all have came across this image yourselves of him being swarthy complexioned. But I will show that later in the video. So without further ado, let's hop right into this video because people have been really pushing me to do this video. I had a little backhanded compliment someone gave me, and they were saying, "Oh, I love your page, but um, you keeping up with colonizer words, but saying you're not black, and you should try to stick to whatever because Indian is a white man word." And just child, people thinking they got a gotcha moment when I've been telling y'all that I don't care for colonizer words and that we should be speaking our indigenous languages to begin with. But however, people argue with me on that. People will bicker back and forth with me about us expressing our indigenous identity. And I just don't have time for that, you guys. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and argue with y'all about words. I will say, do not call me black. Do not sit there and enforce paper genocidal terms because at the end of the day, these are terms that are forced onto us. But however, I want people to understand that English is a colonizer language for many of us. Okay. This is not our ancestral language, and people will argue and try to hotel the information and try to force it to fit, but that's just not correct. There are English words that came from indigenous words, but that does not mean that the English language solely came from us. And I'm just so tired of people pushing their own narratives and lies. It's just, anyway. So I came across this article, and I feel like it is a very good starting point for this video to really talk about the origin of the word Indian. And as you know, I Love Ancestry has done pieces with you melanated American Indians, and of course gave us our time and our exposure for representation and stuff like that. So obviously I was like, you know what, let me just show y'all this article because it's really well written and well thought out. Okay, so I'm gonna read some of this article, not word for word and the whole thing, obviously, but yeah, I will be pointing out major objective and key points in this article. So let's get started. Okay. Many people have argued that American Indian is not the correct term for our people who are the original inhabitants of the Americas. Many assume that the word Indian comes from Christopher Columbus being lost at sea and him believing he was in India. So he decided to call our people Indians based on that. But the true history of the origins of the word Indian has nothing to do with India or its people, but originate with our indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. And they asked the question, was India known by its original peoples as the Indies in or India prior to 1492? No. India was not the true name as used by the people of the anomalous name in the 1400s. The etymology of the term India from Latin India, region of the Indus River, later used in the region and beyond from Indus River from Old Piers. Okay, so I love this article because it talks a little bit about mythology, and I feel like people really overlook looking the origins in these words, because what's so funny is the person that was challenging me was saying how they can prove that the word Indian was first used with Africans, and obviously that is just untrue. Obviously, beyond the reality that the indigenous peoples of India did not refer to their domains as such, even at the time of the infamous Columbus, the name India was not in use until the 16th century. Okay. As seen and stated by its own people, India has been called Barat. Even in Satya Yuga, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, Golden Age, the name India is derived by later invading entities from the river Indus, the valleys around which were the home of the early settlers. The original pre Christian Aryan celebrants referred to the river Indus as the Sindhu. Okay. Again, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing these words right. Anyway, moving forward. Okay. The etymology of the word India. Okay. The Indian subcontinent, Central Asia, south of the Himalayas, formerly sometimes used generally for Asia. Okay. Since 1947, specifically in reference to the Republic of India. Basically saying the same thing that the article has said. Persian invaders converted it into Hindu. The name Hindustan combines Sindhu and Hindu and thus freely infers the land of Hindus. Thus, at the time of Columbus, India was known as the Persian epithet, variously Hindus and Hindustan. Okay. In the Latin language and royalty of the time, the people or children of God, as Spaniards often referred to as indigenous, translates freely as los niños de la Indio, and consequently, los niños de la Indios, more literally, children of God, Indio, freely of God. No country, land, sea, or people in the world were named India prior to 1492. This is going to be the last paragraph I'm going to read from this article, and then I'm going to move on to the next subject. The article says, and I quote, "The subcontinent of the nation and country known today as India did not become officially so named until later, arriving in permanent British presence in the 1700s. The Eurasian domains of India in the various autonomous indigenous domains were prior to and at the time of 1492 known by their various proper designations as Hindustan, Turkestan, Kurdistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc., as designated by their varied original indigenous peoples." And this is so important for people to understand and realize, because later on, well, the next thing I'm going to talk about actually is how indigenous people of that area view this circumstance. And now I want to show y'all another website, because we got to put multiple sources together to get a picture of what's really going on, okay? So I have came across this website called thehindu.com. Now, in this article, Barat versus India, One Nation, Two Names, they talk about the differences of the name of Barat in India. And let's look at this paragraph right here. Look at us. We operate with two names: the original name Barat and the given name India. The given name India. The invaders of Barat who came up to the river of Sindhu somehow managed to pronounce Sindhu as Hindu and then Indus. And finally, India is stuck on us for centuries now. In reality, the indigenous people of Barat are dealing with the same thing we are dealing with over here. The name changing, just altering our culture, our identity. this is this is what happens, when invaders invade your home and your country, etc., etc. And like I said it before, I don't really like to argue about names and what to identify with ourselves as. Just don't come to me talking about how we Hebrew Israelites, how we this and that, because no, 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 no. You may be that. I'm not that. Okay. Don't call me black. I'm okay with Negro or Negress for, in my case, since I'm a woman. Use the feminine pronoun Negress for me. But at the end of the day, these are English terms. These are colonizer terms. And for people to argue with us about how we should call ourselves, they should really F off, to be honest. They should F off. And I'm not the type of person to argue about names because everyone feels different about it. But however, I will say this: our ancestors had to work in ways where we could understand each other despite us having our own different languages. And see, people failed to realize that they didn't just sit there and be like, okay, we're going to only go with this language or we're going to go with that language. They came together and created the Mobilian trade jargon language. I talked about this in a past video of mine before. It's a mixture of different indigenous languages, and it was spoken around the southern tribes of the Gulf Coast. Okay. So when you learn about things like this, it really does put things in perspective, because words cast spells. Words are powerful. And to the person, I'm not even going to say their name because I know they're obviously trying to get clout, because they always in my comment section talking mess or whatever. But um they said, "Oh, well, Christopher Columbus, he's a pale man. He's a pale man. You over here calling yourself after what a pale man called you. Dude, this look like a pale man to you? Honestly. Does he look like a pale man to you?" The book is called This Country of Ours, and the illustration was created by author Michael. Now look at this photo. Look at this illustration here. Look at this illustration here. Does this man look pale to you? Now, like I said before, I'm not going to sit here and argue about whether he existed or not. His legacy changed how people view us today, whether he called us Indios or not, whether he was pale or not. But it's just crazy how people want to shame us on how to identify ourselves when they know full blown well if we start speaking our indigenous languages, they would tell us to speak English. It's the hypocrisy for me. It's you coming on indigenous land telling us how we should call ourselves and how we should identify. Because, like I said before, I don't care for the English terms, but Indian is on our treaties. That is how we are identified on our treaties. Yes, obviously, so called Christopher Columbus is not how they say he is. So when people try to use, oh, you calling yourself what a white man called you, as a gotcha moment, like black, Negro, colored, and all them other terms they like to associate themselves with, wasn't a term the pale men invented for them too. But anyway, that's all I have to say about this topic for now. Because honestly, I really don't care for the whole word semantics and how we should identify or call ourselves, because our people have been focused on that for way too long. People ready to argue and cuss each other out in the comment section over that for far too long. Grow up. Anyway, I love y'all guys. Stay safe, stay moisturized, stay hydrated. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you haven't, go ahead and hit all notifications bell to get notified when I go live and when I upload a new video. And also be sure to enable your YouTube notifications so you can actually get notified when I do go live and when I post. So until the next time, bye, my darlings.